Thank you. Just for the actual recording, I shall turn the camera off, so it won't distract you if you're looking back in the recording. So thank you so much, everybody, and welcome. And thank you, Mark, for the fantastic introduction. I appreciate that. So as Mark said, we are looking at how to discover data visualization in Power BI. I'm going to be looking at Power BI desktop. And from the chat, I've noticed some of you are completely new, some of you already using Power BI. But what I wanted to explain to you, how easy it is as a business professional, in other words, how to use Power BI without any programming knowledge at all. You can actually put a report and dashboard together. A lot of us would have started our journey in Excel, as Mark was introducing me. I go back further, Lotus 123 and Lotus Notes, the Lotus Suites, which is quite a long time ago. But then Power BI has come on board, probably from the progression of Excel, and looking at how you can actually bring all of these visuals together. So what they call in Power BI, your charts, your cards, etc., they call them visualization, or data viz for short. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of the visuals that you can create in Power BI. So we'll be looking at the different types of charts, the bar charts, the column charts, really being able to visually tell a story with your data, to look for insights into your data and be able to go through all of the data and be able to put it in a very professional and effective report. So it's easy for your shareholders, your colleagues, etc., to gain insights into the actual data. And we do that visually through using the different types of charts. You also have maps, tables, and matrices. By the way, just to note, the matrices will be very similar to pivot tables in Excel, because I often get asked that question. How do you put something into columns and rows to show it as you would in a pivot table? And that was the actual visual, which is the matrix. I mentioned the cards, KPIs, high level overview of different values. You might want those to stand out, shine the light on them. Slicers, like you have in pivot tables in Excel, you can create slicers, which will slice and dice your data. And of course, all of your visuals in Power BI are dynamic and interactive. And I've got one here prepared already just to give you a flavor of the different types of visuals that you can use in Power BI. Two of the ones that I've added down here at the bottom are Q&A and key influencers. And there's a decomposition tree as well. They're all the AI visuals within Power BI. And I'll demonstrate one or two of those to you if I have a chance or time to do so. And then the last part of this has been able to publish all of your reports into the services. This is where you need your actual Power BI license to share out your actual reports with your colleagues. And also, a lot of times people want Microsoft Teams, and they want to be able to embed the actual report or a dashboard into a Microsoft channel in Teams. You would need the license to do that as well. So what I wanted to do first of all was just bring up the website, and my colleague Kathy is going to put in this information into the actual chat for you, because if you wanted to use the Power BI desktop app, you can download it for free from the Microsoft website. And here you have Microsoft Power BI desktop. So you don't need any license, and it doesn't cost any money to get up and running with Power BI. Click onto the download. You may need your IT department if you're not able to download it straight away. If you are, it'll only take a few minutes to download it. Just follow the instructions. It's very easy to do so. And also, the pricings for the products as well. You have different types of licenses, because I often get asked about licenses when you publish it up into the services. You can have a free license if you want to practice and get familiar with using the Power BI services, but then you might progress to having a license, and you can see the actual per user or premium per user, the actual prices. So I'll just share that out with you in the chat as well. Once you have that created, then let's have a look at what the Power BI desktop looks like. And I'm going to take you in a moment just to show you when you open it up. It's very similar to any of the Microsoft products, where you've got a ribbon at the top, filters pane, a visualization pane, and a fields pane. And we'll talk through how to create some of the data visualizations to get you up and running. So let's have a look. So I'm going to open up my Power BI desktop. And here's the report that has already been created. This is based on Adventure Works data. So it's Microsoft's dummy data that you can use to analyze and get used to creating the different visuals in Power BI. You can see on this particular one, this is called the report view. And I've actually put in a card and I can see it's 18K for the number of sales. All of these particular data viz can be actual changed. Here we have a slicer, and if you click on any of the options, it will slice and dice the data accordingly. But what you'll note, this is what we call a filter. So think of a slicer as a filter, and I have filtered by financial year on this particular visual. You'll notice when I click onto the actual visual, you'll actually see in the visualization pane, you'll actually see the actual fields that are making up this particular data viz. You'll notice on this particular one, this particular visual is an area chart. And on this one, you can see it's broken down into sales amount by order date and due date. If, for example, I were to take the matrix, so I have a table, so this is a matrix giving me a list of the various types of categories that I'm looking at. And if I wanted to hone in or drill in on a particular item, you'll notice that the other visuals change accordingly when you pick a particular item. It updates it. You wouldn't have that flexibility in Excel. So all of your charts are dynamic and interactive. Now you can change how the interaction works, but that's to give you a flavor of what it actually looks like. Where all this data comes in from, you'll notice underneath your table views, I've actually brought in all of this data from Excel, CSV files, or from other sources. So you'll notice when you go in, you have the option to get data, and it gives you a list of common data resources and tons more to go along with it. And on the full day training course, we'd go into more depth in that and how to bring the data in, primarily from Excel, from folders, from PDF files, etc. And once the data comes in and we've cleaned the data using another tool, which is Power Query, we'd actually go in and clean the data. Then what would happen, we'd look at how to look at the data model. And from here, this would eliminate, if anybody is familiar or uses Excel, you would be using like VLOOKUPs and XLOOKUPs to actually join or concatenate or join your data together from different worksheets or workbooks. Here you can build a data model, so a relationship model where all of the data would flow into your actual fact table. So it's DIM and fact tables. And again, this is something we'd investigate and look into on the actual course, talking about the different types of relationships and how you join the actual tables or data sets together. Once you have all that in place, then the fun part begins, because now you look at creating your actual visuals. So what I'm going to do is I've created an actual bank report canvas. This is what it looks like as you go into it when you download your Power BI desktop. I've given it an actual name, and here I'm on the actual report view, and it says build visuals with your data. So you'll actually see, you can see the data in the data fields. I have two tables in this particular model. I've got the calendar table and the financial table. Can I make or draw your attention into the calendar table for a moment? This is creating it using DAX functions. Again, that's something that we'd investigate further on the actual training, but it allows you to gain more insights into your data, and it's a must. It's, sorry, is something happening there? Sorry, someone, can everybody see my screen okay? Is everybody all right? Let me know. Okay.
Yep, still okay. Yep.
That's okay. Just want to make sure. I just heard someone coming in. I wasn't sure if something was going wrong there. So let me get back to this again. Apologies for the interruption. As I said, it's important that you, if you're going to be looking at time intervals, looking at last year, this year, getting more insights into your data, I'd recommend that you would create a calendar table. If not at source, you can do it within Power BI. So here we have a calendar table, and also I have a small data set just looking at some financial data. And I'll just bring you into the table view just to show you what it looks like. So it's broken down into different segments, different countries, different products. And again, you'll see manufacturing price, units sold, sale price, and so forth. So when we look at the data in Power BI, we want to be able to pull out this information. So how would we do that? By creating the various types of reports. So here we have our visualization pane. And I would always start off with an actual table. So I'm just going to click onto the table or a matrix. So there's the matrix beside it. So you've got your table or your matrix. Just give me a moment now. Just going to turn on my zoom it so I can point out what I'm looking at for you to make it easier to see where I am at. So here we have the table and the actual matrix. So I would normally start off with those, either one of those visuals. Again, very similar to PowerPoint, where you can put the actual visual onto the actual canvas. Then you can actually bring across the actual fields that you'd like to be able to analyze. So I have under my financial, I've got my country. I can click and drag it out on, like a bit like pivot tables in Excel, onto the actual canvas. It will actually build out the actual data taken from the actual table, the data set under tables. You can see here's your country, so it's just pulled it out. And of course, just like the actual pivot tables, it's giving you a unique reference because it's aggregating the actual data. Then I have a list of values that I want to be able to sum by or to be able to pull in the data, like the total sales, the total profit. If I look at bringing in the profit, it will actually give me the country and the sum of profit for that particular country. How easy is that to bring it together? So now what you can see, I can go Control C and Control V, because I'd normally make a copy of the actual table. And then you have the opportunity to change it into another type of visual. And here are a list of the actual visuals that you can use, what they call native to Power BI. You've got your bar charts, your column charts, line charts, and very easily you can actually change this to another type of visual. Let's have a look at the map. So now if I change this to the actual map, it will show me based on my fields in the field well. You'll see there's the location, country, and here we have the bubble size. So it's saying the sum of actual profit. So how easy is that to actually change from a table into an actual map? Then you can look at formatting the actual visuals. So we'll just build out a few just to give you an idea. So the next one that I wanted to show you is an actual line chart. So on this particular one, let's use the data from another data set from the calendar. So I'm just going to click away from this particular visual. I'm now going to bring in another table again. And in this particular one, I want to take in the actual date. I can drag it into the field well in the actual visual pane, or I can bring it straight out onto the actual canvas itself. So whichever you prefer. Then I want to bring in the profit again. So I'll drag that beside it. And here it breaks it down by each one of the dates. So in my environment, I have 2 years, 2013 and 2014. It's giving me the sum of profit. And let's say I just want to now change this into an actual line chart. I can change this into a line chart, and hey presto, I now have a visual showing me what is happening from month on month and year in my actual chart itself. So we'll just drag this out just to move this up. I'll just bring this down and drag this across. And again, what I want to emphasize, there is no coding that is required from a business professional point of view. It's so easy to be able to, once you have the data in your Power BI, you can very easily then be able to create the various visuals. Now I have my sum of profit by date. I have a little table just to demonstrate what's happening by country. Normally what you'd like to do at the very top is you'd like to introduce the report. So also what you can do is insert, and you'll notice you've the option to insert text box, buttons and shapes. If I click onto the text box, it will bring in an actual text box and you just type in what the name of your report is. So if you bear with me now, so I'll just type this out, financial report. You make a spelling mistake, it hasn't fully come across. It tells you, but it doesn't give you the opportunity like in say Word or Excel to actually correct the spelling, but it does inform you that you have a wee spelling mistake. So I can bring this up, you can format, etc. So all of the tools that you would have in, I normally describe this to PowerPoint, that you have the same capability. So again, you can decide on the size, click onto it, and all of the placeholders and the handles can be brought across, and there is your title for your actual report. So now what I want to build out is some actual cards. So I'd like to know from this type of report, what is my total profit over the 2 years? Or maybe I would like to slice by 2013 and 2014. So I would then put in an actual slicer. So you'll notice from the native visuals, I'm going to select the slicer visual. So I'm going to click onto it. It will actually put in the actual visual. I then decide what I want to put into the actual visual itself. So to select or drag fields to populate this visual. So I'm going to bring in the actual year, and I'm going to bring the year in from the calendar table. It's important to note that when you use slicers, this is where you have to have your actual calculated columns, or the data has to be in a column to be able to filter by the actual slicer. So if I have year as a column in my calendar table, I can now bring it over into the field well, and it will populate the actual slicer. Now, it automatically defaults to a particular structure, but that can be updated in a moment, and I'll show you how to change that when we come to formatting the various the actual various visuals. Next thing that I might want to have in my actual report, I might want to actually look at another type of slicer. So I might click into one more, and I'll just pop in the actual country into the slicer and drag that out. So now you can see by each one of the countries in my report. I'll just click onto one of these. So now you can see testing the filter. The slicer is a filter. It will change the actual various visuals depending on what I choose. There's a little eraser here to clear the selection. So without any programming whatsoever, I can very easily create an actual report, and again, name the actual page as well. So normally you create the report pages in the Power BI desktop, and then we'll look at how to publish it up and share it with our colleagues in the actual services. So let's now have a look at how to change and format this report. So each one of these visuals can be formatted individually. So you'll notice from the visualization pane, it actually breaks it out into building the visual. You have a little paintbrush where you can then change and format it, and you've got the analytics then where you get trend lines and forecasting if you have that the appropriate chart for that. Now I've picked the actual slicer as the first one to show you. I'm going to click onto the format, your visual. Again, it breaks out into two areas, and can I also let you note at this stage that Power BI is like a movable feast. It's all the time being updated. The desktop version of Power BI gets updated on a monthly basis, and the services, when you publish it up into the Power BI services, into the cloud, it gets updated on an actual weekly basis. And the reason why I want to draw your attention to that, or to this, is that you will note that there's previews, and all the time they're bringing in new options and new ways of viewing things. And one of the things that they've brought out recently is they've changed how we're going to view the actual visuals, which you could change. But for now, if you download it from the Power BI, from the actual website, I left it in this view because this is what probably most of you would see when you go into it. But at any stage, if you want to find out what's happening or what's new, if you go into your file, go into options and settings, and options will take you into the back end of your, which they call the backstage, and this will give you your global and your current file options. If I look underneath preview features, this is the one where you will note underneath let me just see, new cards, build slicers. Yeah, this is the one I want to bring your attention to. I would definitely turn that on at some stage on object interaction, because they've changed how we're going to be viewing the visuals going forward. Definitely give it a go and see what it looks like. It's in preview at the moment, but it will be rolled out eventually. And no harm to know where these preview features are, because anything that's been changed or updated, this is new, that's just come out this month, which is called the DAX query view. You can turn on and have a look at the previews before they're implemented in the rollout of the latest version. Okay, the reason why, so that was one me just explaining this, because at the moment these visualizations will now appear up in the ribbon if you change to on object orientation. So getting back to the actual slicer, I just wanted to go to the Format tab, the Format Your Visual. You'll see you've got slicer settings, and underneath the style, I can change this to a different type of view. So I like, for my particular one, I would say like a vertical list, and sometimes I change it to a tile. And if I have a tile, then I drag it out and change the look and feel of it, and maybe have something like this, so that now when somebody wants to see a particular year, they can change the structure, and this will automatically update at present all the visuals on your actual report. Let's have a look at this particular visual now. So if I click onto it, it says sum of profit by country. And if you wanted to give it a different type of title, you will notice again under the Format pane, you'll see underneath the general title there's a little slider where you can turn on and off the options, whether you want the title on or not. I'm going to leave it turned on, but I'm going to click into title, and I'm going to just clean up so I'll put into this one, profit by country. So hopefully you're getting the idea how easy it is. Once you find your way around, you can very quickly be able to create a report. One of the other ones that I like when I'm using this type of technique underneath the actual visual is you have map settings, and you can go to controls, and a bit like the Bing map, you can actually turn on your zoom buttons. So if you wanted someone to be able to zoom in and out of the actual map, you can see these options can be turned on and off. Again, a bit like your actual visual for your line chart, you can actually click onto it and you'll notice that there's a zoom slider that they've introduced for your actual line chart or your column chart it's based on. And again, the user has the option then, when you publish it up or save your file as a PBIX file and share it out, that they have control of the actual visuals, and they can change how they want to look and feel, the look and feel of the visuals. I'll just turn off the zoom bar on that particular one. So if you've any questions, post them in the chat. We'll have an opportunity to have a look at them when we come to the Q&A, and I'll go over some other additional items that you might want. If you have additional questions you might want to ask me, we can definitely delve into that. So the next thing I would do if I was getting this report ready to go up into publish it into the actual services, just drag this across. This is where it gets very difficult to leave it alone. It's a challenge to actually not to keep changing it and improving how it actually looks. But what I would suggest is, again, when you're creating the various types of visuals, you'll see you have the different colors, like a color theme. Well, very quickly, you can go to your view tab and you have default themes. And depending on what one you want, I'll just change mine to a darker one, because this is the one where I wanted to show you the actual image of the actual chart. Just going back to, remember to select the visual, click onto it. And map settings is where I was. I was going to change it from the road to an aerial one. So now you can see just by the few clicks of the mouse, I have now changed the look and feel of this report, and anybody can go in and interact with it and change. So if somebody was a salesperson, or I was interested in, say, Canada, you can see it just gives me for Canada, and the chart updates. And any stage, again, if I was the developer and creating this report, and I was to publish that up into the services, my colleagues who have the correct permissions can also go in and create additional pages for the report or change how this report actually works or interact with the actual report. So how do I publish it up into the services? If I click onto the Home tab, I already have it saved, but it will ask me to save, and there you have the Publish button. So publish this report online into the Power BI services. And this, when you click onto it, you have free licenses. You can walk through, it'll talk you through how to set up a free license if you want to see the actual progression from the actual desktop into the services. My workspace is like a sandbox or a play area where you can actually get used to how the reports would look when you share them with your colleagues. Normally, when you have your Power BI Pro license or premium license, then you would look at creating individual workshops or individual workspaces, I should say. Um, think of them like Teams in Microsoft Teams. It's a place where you share all of your reports, Excel files, PowerPoint presentations. All of this can be in one particular area. But for now, I'm going to pop it into my workspace and just say select. It's now going to publish this report up into the services. It's taking the data, the underlying data, so that will be the calendar and the financial data set, and bringing that also into the services. So open the sample file report. You can also get quick insights because that's the AI behind Power BI, and also this natural language where you don't have to spend ages creating the reports, and I'll demo that to you now in a moment. So if I click onto it, it's now going to open it up in the actual services. And here you'll see this is what this report actually looks like. Again, it's interactive, dynamic. It changes depending on what you wanted to slice from the slicer. Or alternatively, if you wanted to hone in, let me look at the actual sales for for October 2024. I can actually pick particular area, and this will change accordingly. So you can see when you want to pick a particular area, depending on where there are sales, your report will change depending, or some of the visuals, depending whether they're linked or interactive to it, it'll change accordingly on the actual report itself. Once it's published into the services, this is where your colleagues then can go in and edit the actual report. So they can go in and edit the report if they have the correct permissions. So they might decide to create an additional pages, report pages, or they may just decide on this particular one, maybe to change this particular view. And this will only happen for the individual. So I can go in and create, for example, a column chart. Let's say I'm interested to see a different type of visual. So I'd like to know what's happening by my actual product, by my actual segment, and maybe I'll look at the actual total profit for that as well. And now, very simply, I have created another type of view, another type of visual for my actual report page. What a lot of people would like to know is the difference between reports and dashboards. So this is way, as a designer or creator, or as a consumer of the actual report information, I can actually go in, just go back to reading view, save the changes, and you'll know I can now look at the ellipses, the three dots, and I can pin it to a dashboard. So it's in the Power BI services that we create the dashboards, because a lot of people say, well, what is the difference between the reports and the dashboards? The dashboard is like a high level overview of your actual data, which is introducing your colleagues to the actual data that you want to explain what your insights and your metrics are. So you can click into it, pin it live, and this now will create the actual dashboard. And again, it's going to look very similar to the actual report, but it doesn't delve in to any of the other areas. any see, or you don't see the financial data, the calendar data, but you can at any stage, once you're in the actual dashboard and you share it out with your colleagues, if they have the correct permissions, they can click onto it and it will open the actual report again, where they can go in and see and edit the report and bring up the actual pages where they can go in and look at the visuals and the data on there. So you will note that when you're in your Power BI desktop, you can actually create the report on the desktop. You can publish it up into the services, where you can then share that dashboard with your colleagues, be internally or externally. So I'll just click back onto my workspace just for a moment and just bring up the actual financial report, the actual dashboard. So I'll just filter by the dashboards because I got a few things in there just to see. So that was the one that I just created for you a moment ago. And of course, you have the natural language where you can ask a question. It actually comes up with the AI and it will come up with items, insights that it found in the data. And it would look and say, well, the number of countries you have is 5. Yeah, you can exit the QA. So you could actually say total number. And if it recognizes your actual question, or it recognizes the wording, it mightn't have the exact fields in the actual data. It'll try and come up with a particular chart. And of course, you could change that to a different type of visual. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to use Power BI, both the Power BI desktop and also the Power BI services, to get more out of your actual reporting. And there's tons and tons more information that we'd share with you if you can join us on the Power BI business user actual one day training course. It's been reduced. It was 2 days, but now we're looking at reducing it to 1 day. I'd love to have you on board. So thank you everybody for your attention this morning. I'm going to hand over to yourself now in case you have any additional questions.